Hey, third graders. Your lesson today is about the indigenous peoples and the tribes of the Three Fires. Your learning target is to identify the three best known tribes of Michigan and what makes each one special. You'll show that you've learned this with the quiz at the end of the video. Three of the best known tribes in Michigan are the Ojibwa, or the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. Together, they formed a loose alliance or confederacy known as the Three Fires. They spoke a common language and shared many beliefs and customs. They were like a family. The Ojibwa were thought of as the oldest brother, the Ottawa were the middle brother, and the Potawatomi were the youngest brother. These tribes were known as the Anishinaabe. Ojibwa means puckered up and refers to the unique style of moccasins these Native Americans wore. The Ojibwa moved into Michigan from the northern shores of Lake Superior and Lake Huron around 1700. There were about 4,000 members of the Ojibwa when the Europeans arrived in Michigan. Fishing was important to the Ojibwa. Each fall, many of them gathered at Sault Ste. Marie to catch whitefish in the rapids of the St. Mary's River. Ottawa means to trade. The Ottawa were important trading partners with the French. They built birch bark canoes that allowed them to transport furs and trade goods over great distances. The Ottawa moved into the Lower Peninsula shortly after the arrival of Europeans in the mid 1600s. There were about 5,000 members of the Ottawa when the Europeans arrived in Michigan. The word Potawatomi means people of the place of fire. They were some of Michigan's earliest farmers. The Potawatomi grew squash, corn, beans, and tobacco. They also hunted and fished. There were about 4,000 members of the Potawatomi when the Europeans arrived in Michigan. Their villages were in southwestern Michigan along the St. Joseph River and the Grand River near the Lake Michigan shoreline. The tribes of the Three Fires shared certain beliefs. Spirits were more powerful than men, nature belonged to everyone, and no one had the right to run another person's life. Everyone living in an Indian village worked. Women and girls did most of the chores. They softened the animal skins, called tanning. They wove fish nets, chopped wood, grew crops, and cooked. They gathered berries, nuts, and wild rice and grew corn, beans, and squash in the gardens. The men and the boys hunted and fished. They made bows and arrows, animal traps, and wooden tools and canoes. They hunted bear, moose, deer, wolf, and fox. Great Lakes Indians lived in dome-shaped houses called wigwams, not teepees. Michigan Native Americans did not wear feathers in their hair. They wore long hair and sometimes braided it. In summer, they wore a breechcloth and moccasins. During cold months, they wore fur hats, moccasins, leggings, and shirts. Women also wore knee-length deerskin skirts. When French explorers and fur traders came to the Great Lakes area in the mid-1600s, Native Americans began to trade and talk with them and live near them. Over time, Indians began to live more like their white neighbors. Now it's your turn to show me what you remember about the tribes of the Three Fires.